Jesus is the Son of God. The angel declares it. God the Father declares it. Satan even knows it. And Jesus, on trial from a bloodied mouth, proclaims it, knowing it will result in his own murder. And those who originally heard the language of Jesus as the Son of God, they didn't hear it the way the Mormons do. They didn't hear it the way the Muslims do. They heard it as God intended. He is claiming to be equal with God the Father. He is claiming to be the creator of heaven and earth. He is declaring himself to be Lord over all, and not just the best among us, but in a category unto himself. He's saying he's God. And if that's not true, that's blasphemy. And the penalty is death. And we see this in another place in the Gospel of John chapter 5, where Jesus makes this same claim that he is the Son of God. And they hear that as a claim to deity. So John 5:18, this is why the Jews were seeking all the more to kill him, because not only was he breaking the Sabbath, but he was even calling God his own Father, making himself what? Equal with God. Friends, that's why Jesus was arrested. That's why Jesus was blindfolded. That's why Jesus was beaten. That's why Jesus was blasphemed. That's why Jesus was hated. That's why Jesus was crucified. And they took Jesus and they beat him some more. They scourged him, ripping the flesh off his back. He was marred beyond human likeness. They made him forcefully carry a heavy Roman crossbar on his barren, bloodied, traumatized back. He fell on his face and it crushed his chest. He had to have help to carry that crossbar to his place of execution and crucifixion. And they laid him down and they drove the equivalent of railroad spikes through the most sensitive nerve centers on the human body, the hands and the feet. And they killed him openly, publicly, and shamefully in the presence of his own mother, as people cursed at him and jeered at him and spat upon him. And friends, let me say this. If he was lying, you have to explain to me why. All he had to do was recant. I'm not God. And his life was spared. And he died. And to ensure he was dead, they ran a spear underneath his side, puncturing his heart sac underneath his rib cage, so that water and blood, the inner and outer sacs of the heart, flowed from his side. They buried him in upwards of 100 pounds of burial linens and spices, and they put him in a cold tomb hewn out of rock, and they rolled an enormous stone over it to ensure that there was no tampering with the body, and they placed the seal of the Roman government upon it to defend and protect it. They posted guards to observe it, and Jesus was dead. And he died for our sins. 3 days later, on a Sunday morning, he rose from death, essentially declaring, I told you, I'm God. And he conquered sin and death.